All right, today is June 8th, which makes it the anniversary of the brutal attack by Israeli military forces on the USS Liberty that resulted in 34 dead U.S. sailors and another 172 injured U.S. sailors. That by a deliberate attack by the Israeli Air Force on U.S. on an American ship, and and this has been that happened on June 8th, 1967, and since then it's been. The Zionists have tried to cover it up, but so I'm just trying to get this information out so that it's not forgotten. I think there's been a lot of attempt by the Zionists to gaslight Americans into believing that the Israelis didn't. It was just a big mistake. They didn't know it was an American ship, but that the testimony by the sailors who were actually on the ship, they testified that the flag, the U.S. flag, was flying high up on the ship, and there's no doubt that the Israeli Air Force fighter jets that were shooting missiles, bullets, and napalm at the sailors, those IDF and Israeli Air Force, the Israeli military pilots, they knew that it was an American ship. They tried to sink it. They did not want, and the Israelis did not want any survivors. It was a deliberate attack on an American ship. That's not just my conclusion. That's the conclusion of Captain Ward Boston, he was assigned to investigate the attack on the USS Liberty. He's a JAG officer, and he after 30 years of remaining silent, because he was ordered to remain silent. It was a big cover up by LBJ and McNamara to cover it up, to protect the Israelis, who are supposedly our allies. I don't know who needs enemies when you have a friend in Israel. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that we consider in Israel an ally, but that's how things have worked for many decades. Yes, there's a bit of big cover-ups. Like here's I have up here an excerpt from US Navy JAG Captain Ward Boston, who was assigned as senior legal counsel for the Navy's Court of Inquiry into the brutal attack on the USS Liberty. And one quote is just like, I'll put a link to the entire affidavit testimony from Ward Boston, and here's one short. I'll just make a quick quote here. He writes, "I am certain that the Israeli pilots that undertook the attack, as well as their superiors who had ordered the attack, were well aware that the ship was American. I saw the flag, which had visibly identified the ship as American, riddled with bullet holes, and heard testimony that made it clear that the Israelis intended there be no survivors. Not only did the Israelis attack the ship with napalm, gunfire, and missiles, Israeli torpedo boats machine gunned 3 lifeboats that had been launched in an attempt by the crew to save the most seriously wounded, a war crime." So that's just an excerpt from JAG Captain Ward Boston, who was assigned to investigate the incident. And then he also writes in there how how McNamara and LBJ were trying to cover it up. And also here's another anecdote of how it's being covered up. Here's my book here, The Timetables of History, that I have. It's interesting. They have columns of for each like year throughout mostly Western history, and categories on the columns. One of the categories is history and politics. Also has history in literature, theater, and so on, in different columns. And here's the column History Politics, 1967. It starts on the previous page, all these events that happened. History and politics. You have all these other incidents, such as Israeli Mirage fighter planes shoot down 6 Syrian Air Force MiG-21s. That's just one of them. They have many, dozens of different incidents like that. Because there's a lot of activity with Israel. Israeli forces use tanks against Syria in worsening border conflict. That's another 1967 incident. And that's the first page for 1967, and under the column category History and Politics. Now the next page it goes halfway down. And I looked through carefully. There's no mention whatsoever of the USS Liberty incident. I had to write it in there. I wrote it in here. June 8th, Israeli fighter jets attack USS Liberty, killing 34 sailors, wounding another 172. I wrote it in there. I don't know if you can see that, but I had to write it in because they did not include it. I would maybe think, well, maybe it's not deliberate. I doubt it. Because I just right now, right underneath it is starts 1968. And the first incident on there that is recorded under the category of History and Politics is for 1968. US Navy intelligence ship Pueblo is captured by North Korea on charges of violating of North Korea waters. Her crew is finally released in December upon admission by U.S., which was immediately repudiated that the violation of waters took place. And I'm not saying that was not worthy of mentioning. It certainly was. It's an important incident. But I would say that the USS Liberty incident was more important. Like, there was only like 83 crew members on the Pueblo, but there was over 200 casualties for the Liberty. I looked up the Pueblo. There was one. When the North Korea attacked the Pueblo, there was one sailor who did die in the attack, which is of course tragic. I'm not saying that the Pueblo incident should not be recorded on here. It certainly should be. That's good that it was. But the fact that the USS Liberty was completely not mentioned whatsoever in this book that's supposed to give all the significant events for 1967, completely just forgotten. So I think that's what the Zionists are trying to do, is they're trying to just sweep it on the incident under the rug of history. Any incident that is an inconvenient truth to their propaganda narrative that supposedly these Israeli government is a benevolent force and are friends and allies, good friends of the United States. This is an inconvenient truth that refutes that claim completely. They're not a good friend of the U.S. They should not be considered a friend of the U.S. They should be considered an enemy of the United States. Not a friend, not an ally. They do not care about us. They do not care about the American people. They just want to use the American people for their own Zionist cult of Zion desires to further their greater Israel ambitions. We're supposed to be their attack dog, guard dog, lapdog. We're just being used by the Israelis for their benefit and at our expense of blood and treasure. Yeah, it's June 8th. So I just wanted to get this quick video out, just in remembrance of that incident of the sailors and yeah, these sailors, they've testified. The ones that are actually on the ship, they said Israel must have known that this was an American ship. The Israeli military knew these were American. It was an American ship with American sailors on it, and that was the goal. The goal was to destroy these Americans. You could destroy this American ship, to sink the American ship, and take down all the sailors on board with it. It's just amazing that it actually did not eventually sink, even though its torpedo hit it, and the Israelis they only stopped firing after when they figured, oh, I think it looks like it's going to sink, so then they stopped firing. And that the only reason that they were actually able to survive, so many have survived, is because the ship did not sink. But Israel tried to deliberately sink an American ship and take down all of our crew sailors down with the ship. I guess that's all I have to say for now. If you're still watching, thanks for watching.